This was not a prince who lived quietly. This was a man whose future was stolen from him for refusing to love the right person. For 27 years, Prince George of Cambridge watched potential wives parade before him, while court memoranda recorded each rejection, each defiant no that cost him deeper access to the throne he was born to inherit. The royal archives reveal a calculated campaign of matrimonial pressure that began when George turned 21 and continued relentlessly until he was 48. Every suitable princess across Europe had been presented as an option. Every refusal was documented. Every year of resistance pushed him further from the line of succession, further from royal favor, further from the protected future that should have been his birthright. Court records from the 1840s show the Windsor family's growing frustration with their unmarriageable cousin. Letters between Queen Victoria and her advisors discuss George's unsuitable inclinations and his determination to avoid dynastic obligations. The royal family understood what they were witnessing: a prince who would choose personal authenticity over political necessity, regardless of the institutional cost. These records were never meant to be fully opened, but each file that continues to surface depends on how many people choose to remain inside this archive. Please subscribe to the channel if you wish to continue uncovering these sealed royal records. What the preserved correspondence reveals is a systematic erosion of George's royal standing. Each refused marriage proposal triggered documented consequences: reduced allowances, excluded invitations, diminished military responsibilities. The punishment was precise, methodical, and designed to break his resistance without creating public scandal. George's own recorded words provide the most damning evidence of institutional control. In 1845, he told his military aide that arranged marriages were doomed to failure, a statement that court stenographers carefully preserved, understanding its implications for royal policy. This was not merely personal opinion. This was documented rebellion against the foundational structure of royal succession. The Windsor archives show that by 1846, Queen Victoria herself had intervened. Private memoranda between the Queen and Prince Albert discussed George's concerning bachelor habits and the need for decisive action to secure his compliance with family expectations. The royal machine had identified George as a threat to dynastic stability. Contemporary accounts from palace staff record the visible tension during family gatherings. George appeared increasingly isolated at royal functions, seated away from potential marriage partners, excluded from private conversations about succession planning. The institutional message was clear: conform or face systematic exclusion. Military records from this period reveal another layer of control. George's promotion timeline shows unexplained delays that corresponded precisely with his marriage refusals. His documented military competence should have secured faster advancement, but palace interference repeatedly blocked his career progression until compliance could be achieved. The final archived letter from this campaign, dated December 1846, contains Queen Victoria's ultimatum: marriage within 6 months, or permanent exclusion from inner royal circles. George's response would shatter royal protocol forever, but the most shocking revelation lay hidden in diplomatic correspondence that would not surface until... The palace surveillance began immediately after George's first recorded marriage refusal in 1840. Preserved staff schedules from Windsor Castle show a deliberate reorganization of household duties designed to monitor his daily activities, his visitors, and most critically, his correspondence. The royal family had identified George as a security risk requiring constant observation. Court financial records reveal the establishment of a discreet monitoring system funded through household administrative costs. 3 additional private secretaries were assigned to George's staff between 1840 and 1842, each reporting directly to Queen Victoria's private secretary rather than to George himself. The institutional message was unmistakable: his privacy had been revoked. Military archives from George's service with the 12th Royal Lancers document the unprecedented interference in his regimental duties. Fellow officers' memoirs record how civilian observers appeared at military functions whenever George attended, taking detailed notes about his interactions with younger officers and maintaining careful records of his social engagements outside official duties. Letters between palace administrators describe the implementation of what they termed protective oversight of George's bachelor quarters. Staff rotation schedules were manipulated to ensure loyalist servants maintained constant access to his private spaces. Inventory records show regular searches of his personal effects, disguised as routine maintenance inspections, but clearly designed to uncover evidence of forbidden relationships. The preserved correspondence between Queen Victoria and her mother, the Duchess of Kent, provides the most damning evidence of institutional paranoia. In an 1843 letter, Victoria writes explicitly about the need to monitor George's inappropriate attachments and expresses concern about his preference for military companionship over suitable social connections. The surveillance had identified patterns the royal family found threatening. Court memoranda from this period reveal a systematic campaign to isolate George from potential romantic partners deemed unsuitable by royal standards. Social invitations were manipulated, military assignments were strategically timed to disrupt developing friendships, and palace staff were instructed to report any concerning behavior observed during George's private moments. The most shocking discovery in the Windsor archives involves the monitoring of George's personal mail. Diplomatic pouches contain copies of intercepted letters between George and various military colleagues, with court analysts providing detailed commentary about the emotional intensity of these exchanges. The royal family was reading his most private communications and cataloguing evidence of forbidden affection. Financial records show payments to private investigators tasked with documenting George's activities outside official royal supervision. Expense reports describe surveillance of his visits to military clubs, his attendance at theatrical performances, and his interactions with civilians during off-duty hours. No aspect of his personal life remained unobserved. Palace staff diaries reveal the psychological toll of constant supervision. George's valet recorded increasing isolation, noting that the prince had begun writing letters in code and conducting sensitive conversations only during outdoor walks, where eavesdropping proved difficult. The surveillance was successfully restricting his ability to form genuine personal connections. By 1846, the monitoring system had expanded to include coordination with foreign intelligence services. Diplomatic correspondence shows requests for information about George's activities during military assignments abroad, with particular emphasis on identifying any romantic relationships that might embarrass the British Crown. But the surveillance network failed to prevent the discovery that would expose the entire royal control system when the words that would seal George's fate were recorded by his military aide on November 15, 1845, during a private conversation at Gibraltar military headquarters. Arranged marriages were doomed to failure, George declared, unaware that his statement would be transcribed, filed, and forwarded directly to Windsor Castle within the week. This was not casual opinion. This was documented rebellion against the foundational principle of royal succession. Court stenographers preserved the complete exchange, including George's elaboration that marriages without genuine affection produced only misery and scandal. The royal archives show these words triggered immediate alarm within Victoria's inner circle. Palace memoranda describe the statement as dangerous precedent that threatened dynastic stability across all European monarchies. What the preserved correspondence reveals is that George was not alone in this resistance. Military service records show a pattern among Victoria's male cousins who had systematically avoided arranged marriages throughout the 1840s. Prince Augustus Frederick, Duke of Sussex, had already defied the Royal Marriages Act twice. Prince Ernest Augustus, Duke of Cumberland, had married against family wishes. George represented the latest in a series of royal males, choosing personal autonomy over institutional obligation. Private letters between European royal houses, discovered in diplomatic archives, reveal growing concern about what court observers termed the Cambridge influence. German princes were reportedly citing George's resistance as justification for their own marriage delays. Austrian diplomatic correspondence describes fears that royal rebellion was becoming contagious among younger male heirs across the continent. The Windsor family's reaction was swift and precisely documented. Within 3 months of George's Gibraltar statement, palace financial records show the cancellation of his military advancement funding and the elimination of his overseas deployment allowances. The institutional message was clear. Defiance would trigger systematic punishment until compliance could be achieved. Queen Victoria's private diary, unsealed in recent decades, contains her personal reaction to George's rebellion. She wrote that his inflammatory opinions about marriage posed direct threat to royal authority and required immediate corrective action. The Queen understood that allowing one royal male to successfully resist dynastic marriage would encourage similar defiance throughout the monarchy. Military correspondence from this period reveals how George's statement spread through officer circles and began influencing attitudes toward arranged unions among the aristocratic class. Regimental commanders reported difficulty convincing young officers to accept family-negotiated marriages, with many citing His Royal Highness's wisdom about genuine affection as justification for their resistance. Court analysts compiled detailed reports about the broader implications of George's rebellion. Preserved documents described concerns that royal males across Europe might begin demanding personal choice in marriage selection, potentially destabilizing the entire system of diplomatic alliances built through dynastic unions. The archives reveal that by 1846, George's resistance had inspired coordinated defiance among Victoria's extended family. 3 other male cousins had refused proposed marriages within 6 months, each citing similar concerns about forced affection and doomed arrangements. The royal rebellion was spreading precisely as palace advisors had feared. Foreign intelligence reports describe European royal houses demanding explanations for Britain's apparent inability to control its male heirs. Diplomatic correspondence shows growing international pressure on Victoria to demonstrate that royal authority remained intact despite the mounting resistance to arranged marriages. But George's statement had already accomplished something far more dangerous than individual defiance. It had provided philosophical justification for an entirely new approach to royal marriage, one that would soon threaten the very foundations of. On January 8, 1847, Prince George of Cambridge committed the most dangerous act of royal rebellion in generations. At St. John's Church, Clerkenwell, he married Sarah Louisa Fairbrother in direct violation of the Royal Marriages Act of 1772. The marriage certificate, preserved in church records, shows no royal witnesses, no palace approval, and no legal recognition by the crown. George had chosen love over legitimacy, knowing the consequences would destroy his place in royal succession forever. The preserved correspondence between Queen Victoria and Prince Albert reveals their immediate shock upon discovering the marriage. Victoria's private letter to her mother describes George's action as constitutional crisis that threatened the very foundation of royal authority. The institutional panic was immediate and absolute. A prince had successfully defied the monarchy's most fundamental control mechanism. Court financial records show the swift institutional punishment that followed George's rebellion. Within 2 months, his annual allowance was reduced by 60%. His military staff was reassigned, and his access to royal residences was quietly restricted. Palace memoranda described these measures as necessary consequences of constitutional violation, designed to demonstrate that royal defiance would trigger systematic exclusion from institutional protection. What makes George's rebellion particularly shocking is the deliberate nature of his defiance. Military archives contain letters proving that George understood the legal consequences of marrying without royal consent. His correspondence with fellow officers explicitly acknowledges that his children would be rendered illegitimate and his wife would be denied royal recognition. George chose love knowing it would cost him everything. Many of these royal rebellions were quietly erased, their stories buried beneath official silence. Please subscribe to the channel to help preserve and uncover the next hidden royal files that document how love became a crime against the crown. The preserved church records reveal the extraordinary circumstances of the ceremony itself. Sarah Fairbrother had obtained the marriage license herself, knowing that no royal representative would assist in arrangements that violated constitutional law. The wedding was conducted without royal ceremony, without dynastic recognition, and without hope of institutional acceptance. This was love, stripped of all political protection. Sarah's background made George's defiance even more scandalous in royal eyes. Court investigators' reports describe her as daughter of servants, who had worked as an actress since 1827, performing at Drury Lane, the Lyceum, and Covent Garden Theatre. The preserved documentation shows that George was not merely marrying without permission. He was marrying beneath his social station in the most dramatic way possible. Palace memoranda reveal the royal family's strategy for containing the scandal. Sarah's existence would be officially ignored by the crown. She would never be acknowledged as Duchess of Cambridge, never receive royal titles, and never be invited to court functions. The institutional message was clear. Illegal royal marriages would be treated as if they had never occurred. The preserved correspondence between European royal houses shows international shock at George's successful defiance. German princes wrote urgently to British ambassadors seeking clarification about whether the Royal Marriages Act remained enforceable. Austrian diplomatic files contain concerns that other royal males might attempt similar rebellions if George's marriage was allowed to stand without severe consequences. Military service records document how George's fellow officers reacted to his marriage. Several wrote private letters expressing admiration for his courage in choosing personal happiness over royal obligation. The rebellion was inspiring exactly the kind of royal defiance that palace advisors had feared since his Gibraltar statement 2 years earlier. But the royal family's revenge would prove more devastating than George could have imagined when they discovered. The royal family's response to George's marriage was not anger. It was something far more calculated and devastating. Complete erasure. Within weeks of the ceremony, all official palace documentation began referring to George as unmarried. Court records show deliberate removal of any reference to Sarah Fairbrother from royal correspondence, guest lists, and ceremonial protocols. The Crown had decided that the most effective punishment was to pretend George's wife simply did not exist. Palace administrative records reveal the systematic implementation of what internal memoranda termed constitutional invisibility. Sarah would never be addressed as Her Royal Highness, never be acknowledged as Duchess of Cambridge, and never be included in any official royal function. The institutional message was absolute. Marriages that violated royal law would be treated as legal fiction, regardless of their emotional reality. The preserved correspondence between Queen Victoria and her household staff provides chilling evidence of this deliberate erasure campaign. Victoria's instructions explicitly state that Sarah's name must never appear in palace documentation, and that any mention of George's domestic arrangements should refer only to his bachelor quarters. The Queen was ordering the official elimination of George's wife from recorded history. Military archives document how this erasure extended beyond palace walls into George's professional life. Regimental social events were restructured to exclude Sarah, and official correspondence refers to George's living arrangements as private quarters, with no acknowledgement that he shared these spaces with a legally married wife. What makes this erasure particularly cruel is the treatment of George's children. Court legal documentation shows that his 3 sons, George, Adolphus, and Augustus Fitzgeorge, were classified as illegitimate despite their parents' legal marriage. The Crown had determined that children born from unauthorized royal unions would be denied all succession rights and royal recognition. George's bloodline had been officially severed from the monarchy. Financial records reveal how the erasure campaign affected George's economic standing. His allowance calculations were based on bachelor prince allocations rather than married royal households. The Crown refused to provide spousal support or household staffing that would acknowledge Sarah's existence as George's wife. The institutional punishment was both symbolic and financially devastating. The preserved diaries of palace staff reveal the psychological cruelty of maintaining this fiction. Servants were instructed to address Sarah as Mrs. Fairbrother, or later Mrs. Fitzgeorge, but never with royal titles. Court protocol required that she be seated separately from George at public functions, maintaining the illusion that they were unrelated individuals rather than married partners. International diplomatic correspondence shows how the erasure campaign extended to foreign courts. British ambassadors were instructed to exclude Sarah from diplomatic social events and to provide no explanation for her absence to foreign royalty. The royal family was demanding that European society participate in their calculated fiction. Legal archives contain the most damning evidence of institutional cruelty. When George inherited the Duke of Cambridge title in 1850, court lawyers ruled that Sarah could not inherit corresponding ducal status because her marriage did not exist in royal law. The Crown had successfully separated George's personal happiness from his institutional identity. But the most shocking discovery in the archived correspondence reveals that the erasure campaign was designed to accomplish something far more sinister than simple punishment. The erasure campaign served a purpose beyond punishing George's marriage defiance. It created a protective cover for far more dangerous royal secrets that military archives would later reveal. While the Crown publicly maintained the fiction of George's bachelor status, private correspondence between senior officers shows they were actively concealing evidence of what regimental records diplomatically term his other affairs. The institutional conspiracy extended far beyond marriage law into territory that could have destroyed the monarchy entirely. Military service files from George's tenure as Commander-in-Chief contained carefully coded references to relationships that required discretionary protection. Fellow officers' memoirs describe a pattern of intense personal attachments that George formed with younger military personnel, relationships that demanded absolute secrecy from all witnesses. The army was not merely serving a prince, it was protecting royal secrets that could never be acknowledged publicly. Preserved correspondence between George's military aides reveals the elaborate protocols established to manage his private life without creating scandal. Duty rosters were manipulated to ensure that certain officers remained available for special consultations with the Commander-in-Chief. Travel arrangements included accommodations for unnamed companions whose presence was never officially recorded. The entire military hierarchy was participating in institutional protection of forbidden relationships. The most damning evidence appears in diplomatic pouches containing reports from foreign military observers. French intelligence correspondence describes George's unusual intimacies with British officers and expresses concern about potential blackmail opportunities against the British Crown. Austrian military attachés filed detailed reports about George's concerning associations during international military conferences, noting patterns that posed obvious security risks. Court memoranda reveal that Queen Victoria was fully aware of the military conspiracy surrounding George's personal life. Private letters between the Queen and her advisors acknowledged that George's unconventional tendencies required protective management to prevent public discovery. The royal family understood that their erasure of Sarah served as cover for far more dangerous royal non-conformity. Financial records from the War Office show substantial allocations for what administrative documents term discretionary security measures related to George's household management. These funds supported additional staff whose primary function was maintaining silence about activities that could never be officially acknowledged. The military was being paid to protect royal secrets that went far beyond unauthorized marriage. Intelligence files reveal that European courts were becoming suspicious about the extraordinary measures taken to protect George's privacy. Diplomatic correspondence describes foreign inquiries about why the British military maintained such elaborate security around their commander-in-chief's personal affairs. The protective conspiracy was becoming too obvious to ignore internationally. Regimental records document specific incidents that required immediate containment. Officer transfer requests show patterns of young men being quickly reassigned to distant posts after developing close relationships with George. Promotion recommendations contain coded warnings about maintaining appropriate discretion regarding senior command relationships. The military was actively managing a scandal that could not be allowed to surface. The preserved diaries of George's personal staff reveal the psychological toll of maintaining these secrets. His valet recorded the complex arrangements required to facilitate private meetings while ensuring no witnesses could later provide testimony about forbidden activities. The entire household was living under the constant threat of discovery, but the most explosive documents would remain sealed in military archives until modern historians discovered evidence that proved the royal family's worst fears were justified when the preserved correspondence between Queen Victoria and Prince Albert reveals a shocking truth about the royal family's response to George's rebellion. Victoria was not merely tolerating his defiance, she was actively protecting him from consequences that should have destroyed his royal standing entirely. Private letters show the Queen systematically shielding George from parliamentary scrutiny, public scandal, and foreign diplomatic pressure despite his repeated violations of royal protocol. Palace memoranda document Victoria's personal intervention in George's career advancement following his illegal marriage. While other family members demanded his complete exclusion from royal duties, Victoria ensured his promotion to Commander-in-Chief of the Forces in 1856. The appointment came just 9 years after his marriage scandal, suggesting deliberate royal protection rather than punishment for his constitutional violation. Court financial records reveal Victoria's secret subsidization of George's household expenses throughout the 1850s and 1860s. Official allowance documents show baseline payments, but supplementary accounts contain substantial additional funding that allowed George to maintain royal lifestyle despite his reduced official support. Victoria was personally financing her cousin's defiance of family authority. The most revealing evidence appears in Victoria's private diary entries, unsealed only in recent decades. Her 1851 entry explicitly acknowledges George's nature and expresses determination to protect him from those who would use his vulnerabilities against the crown. The Queen understood exactly what she was shielding and chose family loyalty over institutional conformity. Diplomatic correspondence shows how Victoria deflected international pressure regarding George's unconventional personal life. When foreign courts inquired about British royal marriage policies, Victoria's responses consistently defended George's choice while avoiding acknowledgement of its broader implications. She was managing international relations to protect her cousin's reputation. Military records document instances where Victoria personally intervened to prevent George's removal from sensitive positions, despite mounting evidence of security concerns. Parliamentary correspondence shows multiple attempts by government ministers to limit George's access to military intelligence, all blocked by direct royal decree. Victoria was using her constitutional authority to protect George from political consequences. The preserved letters between Victoria and her eldest son, the future Edward VII, reveal family tension over her protection of George. Edward's correspondence expresses frustration with his mother's excessive tolerance of George's behavior and warns that royal credibility was being damaged by continued association with his scandals. Victoria's responses consistently defend George against family criticism. Court memoranda reveal Victoria's strategic use of George's marriage scandal to deflect attention from his more dangerous secrets. By allowing public focus on his violation of the Royal Marriages Act, Victoria created cover for the military conspiracy, protecting his forbidden relationships. The marriage scandal served as a deliberate distraction from far more threatening royal nonconformity. Intelligence files show that European royal houses were pressuring Victoria to distance herself from George's controversies. Austrian diplomatic correspondence describes concerns that British royal tolerance for irregular behavior was encouraging similar defiance among continental princes. Victoria's protection of George was being interpreted as institutional approval of royal rebellion. But palace archives reveal that Victoria's protection came with a price that would ultimately trap George in a prison of royal gratitude when private correspondence uncovered. Victoria's protection extracted a devastating cost that would define the rest of George's life. Palace archives reveal that her continued support came with absolute conditions. George would remain permanently excluded from succession planning, would never challenge royal marriage policy again, and would accept systematic humiliation as the price of avoiding complete destruction. The Queen's protection was a golden cage that trapped George in perpetual royal adolescence. Court legal documentation shows the formal codification of George's exclusion from dynastic authority. Despite his position as Victoria's closest male cousin, succession planning documents from the 1860s entirely omit George from regency considerations during potential royal emergencies. His constitutional violation had permanently removed him from backup plans that should have included him by birthright. Military archives document how George's professional achievements were deliberately undermined to demonstrate the consequences of royal rebellion. His strategic victories during the Crimean War were credited to subordinate officers in official histories, while his military innovations were presented as collaborative efforts rather than personal accomplishments. The Crown was systematically erasing evidence of George's competence to reinforce the narrative that royal defiance led to diminished capability. The preserved correspondence between parliamentary officials and palace administrators reveals the broader campaign against non-conforming royals throughout Victoria's reign. George's case established precedents that were applied to other family members who challenged royal authority. Administrative memos describe the development of Cambridge protocols for managing royal relatives who violated institutional expectations. Financial records show how George's economic punishment continued decades after his marriage scandal. While Victoria secretly subsidized his household, official royal accounts consistently listed George's allowances below those of younger, less experienced family members. The institutional message was clear. Royal defiance would trigger permanent financial diminishment regardless of personal protection from the monarch. Court memoranda reveal that George's exclusion served as warning to other potential royal rebels. Victoria's private instructions to family tutors explicitly referenced George's fate as an example of consequences awaiting princes who prioritized personal desires over dynastic obligations. His punishment was being used to educate the next generation about the costs of challenging royal authority. Diplomatic correspondence shows how foreign courts interpreted George's reduced status as evidence of British royal weakness. Austrian intelligence reports describe George's situation as proof that the Windsor family could not control their male heirs, potentially making them unreliable partners for marriage alliances. His defiance was damaging British diplomatic standing across Europe. The most revealing documents are Victoria's private letters to her daughter, Empress Frederick of Germany, discussing the George problem throughout the 1880s. Victoria explicitly acknowledges that George's continuing presence posed ongoing threats to royal authority, but admits that family loyalty prevented the total exclusion that government ministers repeatedly recommended. Palace administrative records document the elaborate protocols developed to manage George's public appearances without acknowledging his controversial choices. He would attend state functions but be excluded from family portraits, participate in military ceremonies but be omitted from succession discussions, receive royal honors but be denied opportunities for independent royal authority. Intelligence files reveal that by the 1890s, George had become a liability that Victoria could no longer effectively protect when foreign pressure and domestic political changes would force the final confrontation that ended his royal influence forever. When the final confrontation came in 1895, when parliamentary pressure forced George's resignation as commander-in-chief, despite 40 years of military service. But the most explosive revelations would remain hidden in sealed military archives until modern historians discovered the full extent of documents that Victoria's government had deliberately concealed from public view. These preserved files reveal a systematic campaign of institutional control over royal personal lives that extended far beyond George's individual case. Military intelligence archives, unsealed only in recent decades, contain comprehensive dossiers on multiple members of Victoria's family who required protective management for unconventional personal lives. George's file was merely the largest in a collection that documented similar institutional surveillance of several royal males whose private relationships posed potential threats to monarchical authority. The preserved correspondence between War Office officials and palace administrators reveals the development of standardized protocols for managing royal secrets. Administrative memoranda describe the creation of specialized filing systems designed to contain evidence that could never be acknowledged publicly, while ensuring that future governments would understand the scope of protection required for royal family members. Court stenographic records, discovered in basement archives, contain verbatim transcriptions of private conversations between George and Victoria during the 1890s political crisis. These documents reveal Victoria's anguish over abandoning her protective cousin, while George expressed understanding that royal authority required his sacrifice. The stenographers had been secretly recording private royal conversations for decades. The most shocking discovery involves international intelligence cooperation designed to protect British royal secrets. Diplomatic pouches contain agreements with foreign courts for mutual suppression of information about royal family irregularities. European monarchies had established systematic protocols for concealing evidence that might destabilize each other's dynastic authority. Foreign Office files reveal that George's case influenced British diplomatic strategy throughout the late Victorian period. Embassy correspondence shows how awareness of royal vulnerabilities affected negotiation positions with European powers who possessed similar compromising information about their own ruling families. Royal secrets had become tools of international statecraft. Military personnel records document the career trajectories of officers who had served in George's inner circle. Transfer patterns show systematic reassignment of anyone who possessed detailed knowledge about the commander-in-chief's private affairs. The army had quietly eliminated potential witnesses while protecting them through advantageous postings that ensured their continued silence. Palace financial archives reveal the true cost of maintaining royal secrecy throughout Victoria's reign. Accounting records show substantial allocations for what administrative documents euphemistically term discretionary household management across multiple royal residences. The Crown was spending enormous sums to protect secrets that could have destroyed the monarchy if publicly revealed. The preserved legal documentation shows how constitutional lawyers developed innovative interpretations of existing laws to provide maximum protection for royal family members whose behavior violated established precedents. Court opinions contain complex justifications for why certain royal actions should be treated as legally invisible despite clear evidence of their occurrence. Intelligence coordination files reveal that the protective conspiracy surrounding George was merely the most extensive example of systematic royal secret management. Similar protocols had been established for other family members, creating an institutional infrastructure designed to contain any threat to monarchical authority, regardless of its personal cost to individual royals. But the final archive document would reveal that George's story was far from unique when modern historians uncovered evidence that connected his experience to a pattern that continues to. Modern archival research has uncovered the devastating truth. Prince George of Cambridge was not an isolated case of royal rebellion punished by institutional erasure. The systematic protocols developed to manage his defiance became the template for containing similar threats to monarchical authority throughout the next century. Court administrative files reveal a continuous pattern of royal family members whose authentic lives were sacrificed to protect dynastic stability. The preserved correspondence between successive royal households shows direct application of Cambridge protocols to later family members who challenged marriage expectations or exhibited unconventional personal relationships. Administrative memoranda from the early 20th century explicitly reference George's case as precedent for managing royal relatives whose private lives posed institutional threats. Intelligence files document how European royal houses adopted British methods for containing family scandals following George's successful management. Diplomatic correspondence reveals international coordination of royal secret protection that extended far beyond Victoria's reign, creating a systematic infrastructure for institutional control over royal personal authenticity that persists in modified forms. Military archives reveal that several of George's contemporary royal cousins faced similar choices between personal happiness and dynastic obligation. Prince Augustus Frederick's repeated marriage defiances, Prince Ernest Augustus's controversial union, and multiple continental princes' resistance to arranged marriages all followed patterns that George's case had helped establish. The preserved legal documentation shows how constitutional interpretations developed during George's crisis continued to influence royal marriage law throughout the modern period. Court opinions contain direct references to the Cambridge precedent in cases involving later royal marriages that challenged institutional expectations. Palace financial records reveal continuing expenditures for discretionary household management decades after George's death, suggesting that the protective infrastructure established during his lifetime remained necessary for subsequent royal family members who required similar institutional shielding from public scrutiny. Foreign intelligence cooperation files show that the international protocols developed to protect George's secrets evolved into comprehensive systems for managing royal family vulnerabilities across European monarchies. The institutional conspiracy that protected George became the foundation for modern royal privacy management. Contemporary court memoranda reveal that George's story served as cautionary example for educating royal children throughout the 20th century. Educational protocols explicitly used his fate to demonstrate consequences awaiting family members who prioritized personal authenticity over institutional obligation. The most recent archival discoveries show that administrative systems, originally designed to contain George's rebellion, continued to operate decades after his 1904 death. Modern royal households still maintain specialized departments whose functions directly trace to protocols established during the Cambridge crisis. What emerges from these sealed archives is proof that George's sacrifice established a pattern of institutional control over royal personal lives that extended far beyond his individual case. His resistance to arranged marriage, his defiance of the Royal Marriages Act, and his acceptance of systematic punishment became the template for managing royal family members who chose love over duty across generations. The institutional infrastructure developed to contain his authentic life became the foundation for systematic erasure of royal personal autonomy that affected countless family members who faced similar choices between genuine happiness and dynastic obligation. This is not the only royal life that was quietly erased. Please subscribe to the channel to open the next sealed file.